Christmas Eve used to mean something in our house. Used to mean the smell of cinnamon rolls baking at dawn, wrapping paper scattered across hardwood floors, and my wife Jennifer laughing at my terrible jokes, while our 18-year-old daughter Emma rolled her eyes in that loving way kids do. Used to mean a lot of things. Now it means sitting alone in my cramped kitchen, staring at a perfectly prepared dinner for three that nobody's coming to eat. Sorry, honey, emergency at the firm, Jennifer had texted an hour ago. Don't wait up. Kiss Emma for me. Right, emergency. On Christmas Eve, at a law firm that supposedly closes at noon on holidays. I'm Dave Morrison, 38 years old, senior IT specialist at Midtech Solutions, and apparently the world's biggest fool. The kind of fool who still believes his wife when she says she's working late. The kind who makes Christmas dinner for a family that's too busy to show up. My phone buzzed. Emma's text. At Madison's tonight? Mom said it was cool. Merry Christmas, Dad. Madison, Jennifer's sister. The woman who's made it her personal mission to remind me at every family gathering that I'm not good enough for her precious sister. Jennifer could have done so much better, she loves to whisper, just loud enough for me to hear. She deserves someone with ambition. I set down my phone and walked to the window overlooking the alley behind our row house. The city looked different tonight, colder, grayer, like someone had drained all the warmth out of the neon signs and streetlights. Even the Christmas decorations on the neighboring buildings seemed to mock me with their cheerful blinking. That's when I saw it. Jennifer's BMW pulling up across the street. My heart jumped for a second. Maybe she'd changed her mind. Maybe Christmas still meant something to her. But she wasn't alone. A man got out of the passenger side. Tall, well-dressed, confident in that way. That screams money and success. He walked around to Jennifer's side, opened her door like some kind of gentleman, and then he kissed her. Not a friendly peck, not a business associate's goodbye. A real kiss. The kind she used to give me. I stood there frozen, watching my wife of 15 years make out with a stranger on Christmas Eve, while our daughter was God knows where, and I was upstairs playing house husband, like some kind of pathetic sitcom character. The man was handsome, I'll give him that. Square jaw, perfect hair, the kind of coat that probably cost more than I make in a month. Everything I wasn't, everything Madison always said Jennifer deserved. They walked toward the building next to ours, the fancy converted loft building where all the young professionals live. Of course. Of course he lived there. I grabbed my jacket and headed for the fire escape. Our building's old, built in the 1920s, when they actually made things to last. The fire escape connects to the building next door, something I'd noticed during my weekend runs, but never thought I'd use for something like this. The metal steps were slick with December rain, and every step creaked like a gunshot in the quiet night. But I made it to the third floor, where warm light spilled from a corner apartment window. I crouched below the sill and listened. Jennifer's laugh, the real one, not the fake one she used at dinner parties. The one I hadn't heard in months. God, Dave is so clueless, she was saying. Still thinks I'm working late. Still makes those pathetic little dinners and waits for me like a lost puppy. Why don't you just leave him? The man's voice was smooth, educated. Everything mine wasn't. And give up half of everything, please. I've worked too hard to build my career to hand it over to some IT nobody. Besides, Emma graduates in 6 months. After that, she trailed off, but I could hear the shrug in her voice. What about Madison? She's been pushing you to make a move for months. Madison, my sister-in-law, the woman who'd been encouraging this. Madison knows what's best for me, Jennifer said. She always has. She was the one who introduced us, remember? Said you were exactly what I needed. My hands were shaking, and not from the cold. Madison had set this up. The woman who smiled at me across Thanksgiving dinner, who let me help her move last spring, who'd been part of our family for over a decade, she'd orchestrated this whole thing. I climbed back down the fire escape, my mind racing. Back in my apartment, I stared at the untouched Christmas dinner, the carefully wrapped presents under the tree, the family photos on the mantel that now looked like evidence of a life that had never really existed. My phone rang. Jennifer. Hey, honey, she said, and her voice was so normal, so casual, that for a second I wondered if I'd imagined everything. Just wanted to call and say Merry Christmas. This case is going to keep me here all night, but I'll be home tomorrow morning, okay? Sure, I said. My voice sounded strange, distant. Merry Christmas. Love you, she said like she meant it. I hung up and walked to my computer. 15 years in IT teaches you a few things about information: how to find it, how to use it, how to make it work for you. Time to find out exactly who my wife's new boyfriend was. His name was Richard Sterling. 35, real estate developer, owner of Sterling Properties. The kind of guy who drove a Tesla and wore watches that cost more than most people's cars. His social media was a carefully curated display of success. Expensive restaurants, exotic vacations, networking events with the city's elite. And there was my wife, in photo after photo, always just out of focus in the background, or cropped out of the frame, but unmistakably there. The timeline went back 6 months. 6 months of lies, 6 months of working late, 6 months of me being the faithful husband while she built a whole new life. I dug deeper. Public records, business filings, social connections. Richard Sterling wasn't just successful, he was connected. City council members, judges, other lawyers from Jennifer's firm. He moved in circles I'd never even known existed. But everyone has secrets. Everyone has something they don't want the world to see. It took me until 3 in the morning, but I found it. Sterling Properties was in debt. Serious debt. The kind that comes from overextending on development projects and betting everything on the next big deal. Richard Sterling, for all his polish and charm, was about 6 months away from bankruptcy. No wonder he was interested in my wife. Jennifer made good money at her firm, had a solid reputation, owned half of everything we'd built together. She wasn't just a mistress. She was a life preserver. I printed everything: bank records, loan documents, business filings. Then I started on Madison. Madison worked in marketing for a boutique firm downtown. Divorced, no kids, lived alone in a condo that was probably worth more than our house. She'd always been the successful sister, the one with the glamorous job and the designer clothes, the one who made Jennifer feel like she'd settled for less. Her social media told a different story. Lots of photos with Richard Sterling going back over a year. Not romantic photos, but business events, networking mixers, charity galas. They'd known each other long before Jennifer came into the picture. The pieces were falling into place. Madison had introduced them, just like Jennifer said. But it wasn't a casual introduction. It was calculated, planned. Madison had found Jennifer the perfect exit strategy from our marriage. A man who looked successful enough to be an upgrade, but was desperate enough to be grateful. My phone buzzed. A text from Emma. Staying at Aunt Madison's tonight. She's got some guy here who's super cool. Says he might have internships at his company. I stared at the message. They were introducing Emma to him, making him part of the family, planning a future that didn't include me. I walked to the bathroom and looked at myself in the mirror. Average height, brown hair that was starting to thin, face that looked older than 38. I'd put on weight since college, lost the muscle I'd built during my brief boxing phase in my 20s. When had I become so ordinary? But ordinary people can be underestimated. Ordinary people can be invisible. And invisible people can learn things, see things, do things that nobody expects. I went back to my computer and started making lists. Names, addresses, phone numbers, email accounts. Jennifer's colleagues, Richard's business associates, Madison's friends. Everyone who was part of this web of lies. Then I started making calls. Hi, this is Dave Morrison from Midtech Solutions. We're doing some network security consulting for Sterling Properties, and I need to verify some account information. Hello, I'm calling from Jennifer Morrison's office. She asked me to confirm the details for tomorrow's meeting. This is Madison's brother-in-law. She asked me to check on the catering arrangements for the New Year's party. By dawn, I had a complete picture. Richard was more than just broke. He was being investigated by the state attorney general for fraud. Madison wasn't just facilitating the affair. She was planning to join Richard's company as a partner once he married Jennifer and got access to her money. And Jennifer wasn't just cheating, she was planning to file for divorce right after Emma's graduation, claiming I'd been emotionally abusive and trying to get the house, the savings, everything. I made coffee and sat at my kitchen table, surrounded by printouts and notes. Outside, Christmas morning was breaking gray and cold over the city. Families were waking up, opening presents, pretending everything was perfect, just like I'd been pretending for months. My phone rang. Jennifer. Merry Christmas, honey. I'm finally heading home. This case was a nightmare, but we got it sorted out. I'll be there in an hour with coffee and bagels, okay? Sounds great, I said. I can't wait to see you. And I meant it. I really couldn't wait. Jennifer came through the door like an actress taking the stage, all smiles and energy and perfectly arranged hair that definitely hadn't been messed up by a night at the office. She was carrying a bag from Morton's Deli, the expensive place downtown, nowhere near her law firm. Sorry I'm so late, baby, she said, kissing my cheek with lips that probably tasted like Richard Sterling an hour ago. You know how these emergency cases can be? Of course, I said. Emergency cases on Christmas Eve. Happens all the time. She gave me a sharp look, but I kept my expression neutral. Just Dave, reliable old Dave, maybe a little tired from staying up waiting for his wife. Where's Emma? She asked, setting the bag on the counter. Still at Madison's. She texted around midnight, said they were having such a good time she wanted to stay over. Oh, good. Madison's been wanting to spend more time with her. Jennifer started unpacking bagels and coffee, like this was any normal morning. You know how close they've gotten lately. Yeah, I've noticed. Madison's been really involved in our lives recently. Jennifer's hands paused for just a second. She cares about us. About our family. Right, our family. I watched her move around the kitchen, this woman I'd loved for 15 years, and tried to remember when she'd become a stranger. When had she learned to lie so smoothly? When had I become so easy to fool? So, tell me about this case, I said, sitting down at the table. Must have been pretty serious to keep you out all night on Christmas Eve. Oh, I can't discuss client confidentiality, she said quickly. Just some contract disputes that needed immediate attention. On Christmas Eve. These things don't wait for holidays, Dave. I nodded and took a bite of my bagel. It was good. Morton's always was. Expensive, but good. The kind of place you go when you're trying to impress someone, or when someone's trying to impress you. This is really good, I said. Morton's, right? That's downtown, near the financial district. They have several locations, Jennifer said, but her voice was getting that tight quality it got when she was stressed. Right, I just thought it was interesting because your firm is on the north side. Seems like a long way to go for bagels when you're working late. She turned to face me, and for a second I saw something flicker in her eyes. Fear? Anger? Calculation? What's with the interrogation, Dave? I worked all night. I brought you breakfast. And you're giving me the third degree about where I bought bagels? Sorry, I said, raising my hands in surrender. You're right, I'm just tired. And disappointed about missing Christmas Eve together. Her expression softened. I know, honey, I'm disappointed too. But this is important for my career. You understand that, right? Of course. Your career is very important. She smiled and leaned over to kiss my forehead. I'm going to shower and change. Then we can open presents and have a nice quiet Christmas morning, okay? Sounds perfect. I waited until I heard the water running upstairs. Then I went to her purse. Her phone was inside and I knew her passcode, our anniversary date, which was either sentimental or just lazy on her part. The messages were all there. Richard's good morning text. Missing you already. Can't wait until we don't have to sneak around anymore. Madison's message from an hour ago. How did it go? Is he suspicious? And Jennifer's response, no, he's clueless as always. 6 more months and we're free. 6 more months, until Emma graduated. Until Jennifer could file for divorce and claim I'd been the problem all along. I took screenshots of everything and emailed them to myself, then deleted the emails from her sent folder. 15 years in IT had taught me a few tricks about covering digital tracks. When Jennifer came back downstairs, hair still damp and wearing the red sweater I'd bought her last Christmas, I was sitting by the tree like the perfect husband, waiting to exchange gifts. You look beautiful, I said and meant it. She was beautiful. That hadn't changed. Thank you. She sat down next to me, close enough that I could smell her shampoo. Should we start with Emma's presents or wait for her? Let's wait. This might be our last Christmas together as a family. She froze. What do you mean? Well, Emma's graduating soon, going to college. Things will be different. Oh, she relaxed. Right, yes. Things will definitely be different. We exchanged our gifts like actors in a play neither of us believed in anymore. I gave her a necklace I'd bought months ago, back when I still thought we had a future. She gave me a watch. Expensive, tasteful, probably picked out by Madison or Richard. It's beautiful, I said, strapping it on. Perfect timing. For what? For new beginnings. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Yes, new beginnings. My phone buzzed. Emma, finally coming home. I heard her key in the door, her voice calling out, "Merry Christmas," as she bounded up the stairs like the teenager she still was, despite everything. How was Aunt Madison's? Jennifer asked when Emma appeared in the doorway. Amazing. She had this friend over, Richard something. He's super successful, owns his own company. He said he might have internship opportunities for me after graduation. I watched Jennifer's face carefully. Not a flicker of surprise or concern. This had all been planned. That's wonderful, honey, Jennifer said. Madison has such good connections. Yeah, and Richard said he knows lots of people in the business world. He could really help with networking and stuff. Emma flopped down on the couch. He asked lots of questions about our family, about Dad's work, about everything, really. He seems really interested in getting to know us. I bet he is, I said quietly. What? Emma looked at me. Nothing, sweetheart. Just glad you had fun. We spent the morning opening presents and pretending to be a happy family. Emma showed us photos from Madison's apartment, including several with Richard Sterling looking comfortable and at home. In one photo, he had his arm around Madison's shoulders. In another, he was helping in the kitchen like he belonged there. He's really nice, Dad, Emma said. I think you'd like him. I'm sure I would. By noon, Emma was back upstairs, video chatting with friends, and Jennifer was getting ready to leave again. Where are you going? I asked. Madison invited me for Christmas brunch. Family thing. What about our family thing? Dave, please don't be difficult. It's just brunch. Right, just brunch. With Richard? She went very still. What did you say? Nothing. Have fun at brunch. She stared at me for a long moment, then grabbed her purse and headed for the door. I'll be back this evening. After she left, I sat in my living room, surrounded by wrapping paper and the remnants of our Christmas morning charade. Emma was upstairs, probably posting about her perfect Christmas on social media. Jennifer was across town, probably laughing about how easy it was to fool her stupid husband. And I was here, finally seeing everything clearly for the first time in months. I picked up my new watch and checked the time. 12:47 p.m., Christmas Day, the day my old life officially ended. Time to start planning my new one. The next week passed in a blur of fake normalcy. Jennifer went back to work, Emma prepared for her final semester of high school, and I played the role of oblivious husband while quietly building my case. I'd learned a lot about surveillance over the years, not from any training, but from debugging network security issues and tracking down system intrusions. People leave digital footprints everywhere, and if you know where to look, you can map someone's entire life. Richard Sterling was creature of habit. Coffee at Grind on 5th Street every morning at 7:30, lunch at rotating upscale restaurants, always with business contacts or city officials. Evenings split between networking events and private dinners with my wife. Madison was more unpredictable, but she had patterns too. Yoga classes Tuesday and Thursday mornings, client meetings scattered throughout the week, and increasingly frequent sister dinners with Jennifer that I was never invited to. I started following them. Not physically, that was too risky and too obvious. Instead, I used their own technology against them. Social media check-ins, credit card transactions, phone GPS data that I could access through some creative network, troubleshooting at work. Midtech Solutions had contracts with half the businesses in the city. It was amazing what you could learn when you had legitimate reasons to access their systems. Dave, you've been working late a lot recently, my boss Tom mentioned on Thursday morning. Everything okay at home? Fine, I said, and just some personal projects I'm working on. Tom nodded, but I could see the concern in his eyes. I'd been a model employee for 8 years. Steady, reliable, never caused problems. Now I was staying late, asking unusual questions about our client systems, and probably looking like hell from lack of sleep. Take care of yourself, okay? And let me know if you need anything. Thanks, Tom. I appreciate it. That evening, I was in my car outside Chez Laurent, watching through the window as Jennifer and Richard shared what looked like a very romantic dinner. She was wearing the necklace I'd given her for Christmas, which felt like a particularly cruel touch. My phone rang. Madison. Hey, Dave, how are you doing? Fine, Madison, what's up? I was wondering if you wanted to grab coffee tomorrow. I feel like we haven't talked in ages, and I wanted to chat about Emma's graduation plans. Emma's graduation. The magic deadline when Jennifer would finally make her move. Sure, I said. Where did you have in mind? How about that place on 5th Street? Grind? Say, 8 o'clock? Grind. Richard Sterling's regular coffee shop. This wasn't a coincidence. Sounds perfect. Great. See you then. I hung up and watched my wife laugh at something Richard was saying. She looked happy, genuinely happy in a way I hadn't seen in years. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for what I was planning to do. Almost. The next morning, I arrived at Grind 15 minutes early and chose a table in the back corner where I could see the entire cafe. Madison showed up exactly on time, looking polished and professional in a way that probably cost more than I spent on clothes in a year. Dave, you look good, she said, giving me a hug that felt like a performance. Thanks, you too. We ordered coffee and made small talk about Emma, about work, about everything except the elephant in the room. Madison was good at this, steering the conversation, keeping things light, making me feel like I was part of the family. At 7:30 exactly, Richard Sterling walked through the door. Madison's eyes flicked toward him for just a second, then back to me. So anyway, I think Emma's really excited about graduation. It's going to be such a big change for your family. Yes, I said, watching Richard order his usual. Big changes coming. Jennifer seems really happy lately, Madison continued. More confident, more alive, you know? I think her career is really taking off. Her career? Right. Richard was sitting 2 tables away, close enough to hear our conversation if he wanted to, close enough to see me, to evaluate the competition, to report back to Jennifer about her boring husband who didn't suspect a thing. Actually, Madison, there's something I wanted to ask you about. Of course, anything. I've been thinking about making some changes in my life. Maybe taking some risks, you know? Jennifer's always saying I should be more ambitious. Madison leaned forward, interested. What kind of changes? Well, I've been doing some research into real estate investment. There's a lot of money to be made if you know what you're doing. Richard Sterling's head turned slightly. He was listening. That's exciting, Dave. I don't know much about real estate, but I have a friend who's in that business. Very successful. Maybe I could introduce you sometime. That would be great. What's his name? Richard Sterling. He owns Sterling Properties. Really impressive guy. Smart, connected, knows everyone in the city. Sterling Properties, I repeated, loud enough for Richard to hear. I think I've heard of them. Didn't they just close that big development deal on the waterfront? Madison's smile flickered for just a second. I'm not sure about the details. But Richard Sterling was sure. He was turning around, probably ready to introduce himself to the potential investor who just mentioned his company. Actually, I said, standing up, I should probably get going. Work calls. Oh, okay. But think about that introduction, okay? Richard could really help you. I'm sure he could. I walked past Richard's table on my way out, close enough to see the expensive watch, the manicured nails, the face that my wife preferred to mine. He looked up as I passed, and I gave him a polite nod. Excuse me, he said. I couldn't help overhearing. You mentioned Sterling Properties? I stopped and turned back. Yes, I was just telling my sister-in-law that I'm interested in real estate investment. She mentioned you might be someone to talk to. Richard Sterling, he said, extending his hand. And you are? Dave Morrison. His grip was firm, confident, the handshake of a man who was used to getting what he wanted. Morrison, he repeated. That name sounds familiar. I work in IT. Pretty common name. Right. He was studying my face, trying to place me. Well, I'd be happy to discuss investment opportunities with you sometime. Real estate can be very profitable if you know the right people. I'm sure it can, especially if you have the right connections. Something flickered in his eyes. Suspicion? Curiosity? Here's my card, he said. Give me a call and we'll set up a meeting. I took the card and smiled. I'll do that. Thanks, Richard. I walked out of the cafe, leaving Richard Sterling to wonder who I was and why my name seemed familiar. By the time he figured it out, it would be too late. That evening, Jennifer came home in an unusually good mood. How was work? I asked. Great, really great. I think some new opportunities might be opening up. That's wonderful. What kind of opportunities? Oh, just some potential partnerships, business development stuff. She was practically glowing. Richard had probably told her about meeting me, about the clueless husband who was interested in real estate investment and had no idea his wife was sleeping with a developer. Actually, and I said, I had coffee with Madison today. She mentioned she has a friend in real estate who might be able to help me with some investment ideas. Jennifer went very still. Investment ideas? Yeah, I've been thinking it might be time to take some risks, Be more ambitious. You're always saying, I should think bigger. Dave, we've talked about this. Risky investments could jeopardize our security. Our security? The house, Emma's college fund, our retirement savings. We can't afford to gamble with that. Interesting. When it was her secret boyfriend's business, real estate was full of opportunity. When it was her husband's idea, suddenly it was too risky. You're probably right, I said. I wouldn't want to do anything that might hurt our family's future. She relaxed. Exactly. We need to be smart about money. Speaking of being smart, how are things at the firm? Any interesting cases? The usual. Corporate law isn't exactly thrilling, but it pays the bills. Right, just like my IT work. Not thrilling, but steady. Exactly. We spent the evening watching television and pretending to be a normal married couple. Jennifer checked her phone frequently, probably texting with Richard about their encounter with her oblivious husband. I made mental notes about everything, her reactions, her lies, the way she couldn't quite meet my eyes when she talked about work. Around 10 o'clock, she announced she was going to bed early. Big day tomorrow, she said. What's happening tomorrow? Just some meetings, you know how it is. After she went upstairs, I sat in my living room and thought about the game we were all playing. Jennifer thought she was manipulating me. Madison thought she was orchestrating the perfect plan. Richard thought he was stealing another man's wife without consequences. They were all wrong. I pulled out Richard's business card and studied it. Sterling Properties, with an address in the financial district. Tomorrow, I'd do some research into Mr. Sterling's business practices. I had a feeling there were some very interesting stories to uncover. And then the real fun would begin. Sterling Properties occupied the 15th floor of a glass tower downtown, the kind of building that screamed success and money. I walked through the lobby like I belonged there, wearing my best suit and carrying a briefcase that contained nothing but printouts of Richard Sterling's financial troubles. I have an appointment with Mr. Sterling, I told the receptionist. Dave Morrison. She checked her computer, frowned, then smiled apologetically. I don't see you on his calendar, Mr. Morrison. He gave me his card yesterday, said to call and set up a meeting about investment opportunities. I spoke with his assistant this morning. This was a lie, but a calculated one. In my experience, most people will assume there's been a scheduling mix-up, rather than accuse someone of lying outright. Let me check with him, she said, picking up the phone. While she talked, I looked around the office. Expensive furniture, abstract art, floor-to-ceiling windows with views of the city. Everything designed to impress potential investors and hide the fact that the company was hemorrhaging money. Mr. Sterling can see you for a few minutes, the receptionist said. Conference room B. Richard Sterling entered the conference room 5 minutes later, looking polished and professional. If he was surprised to see me, he hid it well. Dave, good to see you again. I have to admit I was intrigued by our conversation yesterday. I appreciate you making time for me, I said, shaking his hand. I know you must be busy. Never too busy for potential investors. Please have a seat. He sat across from me at the polished conference table, every inch the successful businessman. I wondered if Jennifer was impressed by this act, or if she knew the truth about his financial situation. So, tell me about your investment goals, he said. What kind of returns are you looking for? Honestly, I'm pretty new to this. I've been doing IT work for years, but I'm starting to think about diversifying, building something for my family's future. Smart thinking. Real estate can be very rewarding, especially if you get in early on the right projects. What kind of projects are you working on currently? Richard's smile was smooth, practiced. We have several developments in various stages: mixed-use residential, commercial spaces, some very exciting waterfront properties. The waterfront project, that's the one my sister-in-law mentioned, right? She said it was a big success. Something flickered behind his eyes. Which sister-in-law was that? Madison. Madison, sorry, what's her last name now? She's divorced, goes by her maiden name. Madison Clark? That's right, you know her? We've met at some networking events. Small world. Small world indeed. Richard was trying to figure out how much I knew, how much Madison had told me. He was probably wondering if I knew about Jennifer. She speaks very highly of you, I said. Says you're one of the most successful developers in the city. That's kind of her. Actually, that's part of why I wanted to meet with you. See, my wife is a lawyer, corporate law, does a lot of work with real estate transactions. Jennifer Morrison at Hartwell and Associates. Maybe you know her? Richard Sterling went very still. The color drained from his face, and for a moment he looked like he might be sick. Morrison, he said slowly. Jennifer Morrison is your wife. For 15 years, I said, smiling. Amazing woman. Very dedicated to her work. She's been putting in a lot of late nights recently, working on some big deals. Yes, I think we may have met at some professional functions. She mentioned that. Said you were very impressive.